First of all, Harry, thanks so much for joining us here on Astro SuperSport. It's really nice to meet you. Can I talk about how much you've grown as a player? I think moving away permanently from your boyhood club must have been a really tough decision. How much do you feel actually that move has forced you to grow a bit more as a player?
Yeah, I think it was probably the most important decision in my career, which was to move away, and I made that pretty early in the sense where I wanted to go away and look for football elsewhere and enjoy playing regularly. And I managed to get to go on loan to Sampdoria in Italy, which was a really enjoyable experience. And I could, like you said there, I learned a lot about different cultures, moving away, different life lessons, different football, and it was a really enjoyable experience.
And then, of course, you returned to England. You played for Leicester in the Championship last season. You really became, I think, a bit of a playmaker metronome for Leicester, really. Did you find yourself having to approach games differently in the Championship compared to Premiership? Let's stick away the individual club philosophy and tactics, but did you approach games differently in the, I guess, one division below?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, well, I came here and I approached it probably more with more respect than any other game I've ever played or league I've played in, because I know how difficult the Championship is, and if you approach it with the mentality that it's going to be easy, then you know it's going to be probably one of the most difficult seasons of your career. So I approached it with the sense of course, I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to get back playing and doing well, but also it was about going into every game with the best and the most utmost respect for every opposition, because every game in the Championship since I've played there was really tough.
So, what would you say are some of the key differences between the Championship, the Premier League, and the Serie A, if you were just to pick out a few things?
Well, I think the Championship is, it's just as physical as all three leagues. It's, if not maybe slightly more physical with the amount of matches you play and the regularity. But I think that the difference in particular with Serie A and the Premier League is that if you make a mistake, you're normally punished, and it's the quality and the level of quality with opposition teams where you can see the quality is why they're in the Premier League, because they're the best of the best. So it's important that in the Premier League you remember that, because like I said, if you make some mistakes, normally you're punished.
Let's talk about your time at Spurs very briefly. What was it about that period of time? Of course, under Pochettino, you were fantastic, but what was it about the time under Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho? What is it about their game that just didn't suit you in those years?
I think it was, and by the way, they were all fantastic managers, and they was all different in their own way. But I think just the way that I like to play, which is a lot more on the ball and focus on how we can affect the opposition rather than how the opposition affect us. And I think especially with Pochettino, and it was more about us and how we can do damage on the opposition, and how we can play. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. You keep going, and you keep going and going and going. And I think the other two were slightly more different in their approaches, but both top managers, of course. And I still played multiple games for them and learned different different ways they wanted to play, and took that within my career as well. So I think I took a piece of information from every manager I worked with and tried to sort of bring it to my game.
It was, I think it was fair to say it was quite a frustrating time for you in terms of getting minutes instead of really stamping your ground in those period of time. Would you say your confidence was at its lowest at that point?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, I think I've said that before as well. It was difficult because yeah, when you want to play and you want to play regularly and you want to show the club or the fans, the manager, what you can do, and if you don't get regular game time, it's always difficult to do that. And I think in that spell, it was always tough to perform and to play my best football. So my confidence was definitely at its lowest in that spell. But that's why I made the decision to leave and to try and find football elsewhere to get it back.
Well, you said it yourself. Your game tends to be better when you see more of the ball, and that shows last season with Leicester being, I think, it was the second highest amount of possession in the Championship. But it's going to be different this time around the Premier League and being one of the newly promoted sides. How challenging do you feel it will be this season now that predictably you may not be able to see as much of the ball this season?
Well, I think it depends how you approach the game, really, because I think if we approach the game to try and keep the ball and of course being wary of the opposition, then we will have more of the ball. I think it's all about the approach. I think the Premier League, of course, is a step up, but I think the approach is the most important thing in how you approach the game. And But yeah, like you said, we have statistically less of the ball. But if I draw on my experiences from the managers that I've had at Tottenham in particular, where we didn't have as much of the ball, then it's important to use that and do whatever you can to find results in this league, because the most important thing is to stay in the league with Leicester this year.
How has Steve Cooper structured differently to the team compared to Enzo Maresca? What are some of the differences?
Well, I think we're a lot more pragmatic in the way that we play, in the sense of it's not as maybe fluid as it was last year and as possession based, but the manager's keen on finding strengths in the counter attack with our players. We've got loads of pace in the wing and deadly striker in Vardy as well. So it's important that he's trying to find ways of working on our strengths in the striking area, in the forward part, and being defensively solid, because especially in this league, it's that you come up against different tactical ideas, and it's important to maybe not expose yourself defensively as much. So it's to be a lot more defensively solid.
Solid, yeah, I was going to say. Can I talk about you? Then you've been compared to some absolute legends. I think Russell Small called you Zidane. Poch used to call you Iniesta. So these are big names. But if you were to name a legend you feel your game is most similar to in some ways, or modelled after perhaps, who would you say it is?
Well, I take a little piece from every player when I grew up, but I used to love watching someone like Xavi, someone who was important and in everywhere. He was almost like that kind of spider in the web in the middle. He was always in control of trying to manage the momentum of the game. But yeah, I think those names are a bit of a blessing. But yeah, it's nice to hear those kind of things. But yeah, I always strive for players to be, I always strived to be similar to players like Xavi and Paul Scholes and that kind of player.
Would he be, I guess, one of the players you say you wish you played with? Or is there one in your mind, any player active or retired, that you wish you shared the pitch with?
What, with on the pitch together in the same team or opposition?
In the same team. Let's put it in the same team.
God, well, I think I'd love to have played in the same team as someone like Messi. I think that would have been nice. I was fortunate to play against him, which was great, but to play with him would have been nice.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot of players' dreams.
I think that'd be a good player.
Who would have been the best player you faced though on the pitch, you feel, so far in your career?
Messi. It'd definitely be Messi.
Okay.
Yeah, just being up and close, and the way he plays is I think TV doesn't do him justice. He really is that good.
What was that day like when you knew you were going to share that pitch, and how did you approach it?
Same as I approached every game. I don't really I'm not really in awe of players. I kind of approached it in the way that, okay, it's Barcelona and they're a fantastic team, but can we win? Can we beat them? And what can we do to win the game? And I think I think we ended up losing the first game at Wembley, but we managed to get a draw in the second game. And but the mentality and approach is the same throughout every match for me.
Well, can you describe to us Assassin Jamie Vardy in 3 words, if you were to pick?
God, that's not enough words. Yeah, he's prolific.
Okay.
Mad and intelligent. He's a very intelligent guy. Yeah.
Well, I wish we had longer than 10 minutes, because I was going to ask you what you mean by mad, but I think that's going to
yeah,
go
I think it'll be
on
longer
a
than
bit
10 minutes.
So just one final one for me. Let us in behind the curtains, then jumping from state-of-the-art training ground at Spurs to state-of-the-art training ground at Leicester. What's the one difference between the two that you can tell us?
Not much really. They're both incredible training grounds. I think the one difference I'd say maybe is the swimming pool here is a lot closer to the dressing room than it was at Spurs, which is a lot easier after training, just to walk straight across the corridor, which is easier. But other than that, it's pretty much similar. They're both incredible training places and great places to work.
I mean, just how impressive was it when you walked through it at Leicester first?
Yeah, it was. I heard that the training ground was incredible, but when I first arrived here, I didn't realise just how good it was, and it really is it's an amazing place to work every day.
Yeah, you've had the luck of the training grounds in your career, so to speak.
Yeah.
Anyways, Harry, thank you so much again for joining us. Do have the best for the rest of the season.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.